in New York, we're not permitted to have anything that resembles realistic-looking guns.
Well, unless it's an actual gun.
No, they don't even let you have guns in New York. Are you kidding me? It's probably, they don't let you do anything. You're not allowed to defend or protect yourself. You're not allowed to do anything.
I doubt you're not allowed to have a gun legally. You may have to check that one.
Legal, yes, I know. According to the Constitution, you have the right to bear arms. You also have the right to bear your forearms. But they make it
right to arm bearers.
Very difficult to have guns in New York City. New York State is another matter. If you go outside of the city limits, you go into the hunting areas, you can carry a rifle because it's a hunting area. It's hunting ground. It's happy hunting ground, so you can have a gun.
I would think.
Now, in New York, if you try to apply for a license, your license will be reviewed. It'll be looked at. But 9 times out of 10, you will be turned down. Only a few people are permitted a gun. And if you get a gun, generally you have to get it on legal grounds. Anyway, my point is, the story I'm trying to tell, you cannot purchase any kind of a gun. You can't have anything that even looks realistically like a gun and have it shipped to New York City. So what I did, I'm working on a movie next May, and it involves guns, firearms. And since it's so extremely difficult, you can't even find anything. Okay. The only thing they'll let you have is anything that looks like a toy, like it's yellow or it's pink or it's clear, it's see-through or something like that.
Yeah, that's so that cops don't shoot kids.
Well, yes, this is obvious. I was detained by police when I was, let me see, in 1991. So I was 19 years old, maybe 18. And I was detained because my friend Colin brought over these really nice, awesome Crossman air rifle handguns, and they look realistic. That's the thing about it. They look realistic. Cops drew their guns on us. My God, I was mortified. I dropped my gun. I got a summons. We weren't arrested, but I was fined. I was fined $100. Meanwhile, all the kids who were busted with illegal possession of pot got like $10 fines. It's hilarious. They'll only fine you $10 for pot, $100 for a fake looking gun. It wasn't even a real looking gun. Anyway, so that was like the end of that experience. And they decided that anything that even remotely looked like a gun is now illegal to ship to New York. So what I did to New York City.
This sounds very Untouchables kind of. Wasn't there something in the Untouchables where they had a stash of guns or something? And
I don't know. Weren't they more about like booze or something?
Illegal booze or something. There was a big shootout like in the middle of the
booze.
Yeah.
So I have a movie that I have to do. And I get tipped off by various people in motion picture, and they because they're actually trying to get rid of real guns anyway because of the whole Alec Baldwin thing. So they've been creating.
Wait a minute now. It's not like Law and Order shot there. They have lots of guns and criminals and things like. Is it okay for They
do. You notice though, a lot of times the guns that they draw are fake. They usually do it in night shoots, and then when they do. They have technical advisors. But Law and Order is one of those shows that is actually going to move away from actual guns with caps or what they call powerless.
They don't need guns. They can just have Ice-T stare people down
and ask people what pedophilia is, even though he works for SVU.
Exactly.
And his gay son. I'm not gay. All right. I have sex with women, and I like to have sex with men. You're gay. Okay, that was a scene from Law and Order. Thank you very much. That was Ice-T talking to his kid on the show. They're moving away from realistic looking guns and moving to these new guns that they have now that are kind of like air rifles. They give you the same kickback. They look very realistic and everything. I actually used a really nice like automatic. I guess it was an automatic looking air gun. And it worked with CO2 cartridges. That was back in a movie I made a long time ago. For what I have to do, I need a couple of guns, and they have to be realistic, at least as real as I can get them. It's for the thing. So you get tipped off in the film industry to go for a certain type of gun because it's a very good-looking prop gun. So it looks good on film, and if you stay far enough away from it, it'll look real enough. So what I did was I bought 2 guns. I bought 2 air pistols. They're just air guns, right? BB guns, basically. No BBs in it either. And I'm going to have to figure that one out too, because I have to make these things look as realistic possible. And I'm having them shipped to I'm having them shipped to my father-in-law's address in Michigan. I have them shipped while my wife and daughter are visiting. My wife and daughter right now are currently not in New York. They're on their way. Hopefully they're in Pittsburgh at this point, and that's why I'm waiting for a phone call from them to make sure they got there okay. But I bought these guns and I sent them to my father-in-law, and he calls me up today and he says, Dave, I got a package for Bronwyn and it's a gun. And I said, it's okay. It's not a real gun. He says, this looks really real. Like, it's okay. Another one is coming. And he's like, oh,
you might have told him that he should expect a gun, though, didn't you?
Well, the problem was I wasn't expecting him until Tuesday, but one of them got there early before Bronwyn could show up and explain the situation. So he gets a gun, something that looks like a realistic gun in the mail.
Now, I got a question about, like, is this some sort of crime drama that involves guns? Is it something like that?
Well, you know what? You complain about how my stuff is kind of esoteric and you don't really get it, and you give me the last confused, one was. You give me the confused meme. That couldn't be helped. I was actually trying to make a movie, but my lead actress decided to make things interesting for me by saying, I don't want to do the movie anymore. Bye. So I was like, what? And I tell the other actors, and they're like, she said, what? Really? Mm-hmm. And then she emails me a couple of months later saying, Dave, can I have some clips from the movie so I can put them on my demo reel? I'm like, what? I told one of my other actresses about it. She's like, she said, what? Mm-hmm. She realized she'll never work with anybody again after what she did, because she kind of ruined it for the other actors and everybody else who was involved in the movie. Anyway, that's another. God, I'd love to go into that sometime. Anyway, this one is going to be a lot more Formula A to B to C. It's basically, it's about like a girl whose brother is like a drug dealer, gets shot or something, and I've got to have a couple of guns, so I'm gonna have. Hopefully, I have to look at these things because I don't think they're gonna look that realistic.
For some reason, something popped in my head. Okay, so you're in New York.
New York City, baby.
New York City, okay. New York, because like I'm in Washington State. I look at other states, especially on the East Coast, is like those whole states are pretty darn small. Like even New York State, what would you say the size compared to Washington State? Maybe it's like half the size.
Let's bring up a map here and take a look.
And while you're doing that, like, are you close? What state are you on the border of, or the closest on the border of? New Jersey?
No. See, the thing is, I'm on Long Island, and Long Island borders Manhattan, it borders Connecticut, Massachusetts, Rhode Island. New Jersey's on the other side, and then below us is, Brooklyn, Staten Island. So, I mean, but New Jersey is an island over.
Okay.
Just Manhattan Island over, that's all.
And I'm thinking New Jersey. I just think of the beginning of Sopranos when he's driving over the bridge and woke up this morning.
That's, whatever bridge it's either the Verrazano Narrows or the Bayonne Bridge. I'm not really sure. One of those. Or the Washington Bridge. Mm-hmm. George Washington Bridge.
I'm assuming those are all toll bridges still.
Yes. Probably. The only ones that I don't think are toll bridges are the Williamsburg Bridge, Brooklyn, and Manhattan Bridge, because those.
Because we have.
I'm right over by the Triborough, actually, which goes to the Bronx, and I have a great view of the Triborough.
In where I live I'm kind of on the sort of the mainland side, but then it's like if you have to take a bridge to go to say there's Lake Washington basically between. Sort of Seattle. I'm north of Seattle, but it's all sort of part of the mainland. But then if you go over a little bit, it's an archipelago, I think. It's like part of something else. But anyway, so you have to take a bridge to go to the mainland, to go east. And when you want to go east, there's two bridges, basically. There's the 520 bridge, which is a toll bridge now. And which is weird. Like yes.
I should probably tell you it's the Triborough Bridge, right? But they renamed it the RFK Bridge after Robert Kennedy, like 10 years ago, maybe. It is probably the most expensive bridge now. I think it's like $12 one way. I'm not sure.
Jesus.
But that's New York. I mean, that's what you got to get. And it connects, I think it connects Manhattan, Bronx, Queens kind of thing, I guess.
But they're hitting us with tolls on various parts of. You don't even have to have a bridge. You can just be a chunk of the freeway, and they hit you with a toll. So I'm like, and I barely drive. So
let me just make sure I'm clear about that. RFK Bridge toll. They raise it every 5 months.
The RFK Junior Bridge.
I'm sorry, I was a little bit off. It's $8.50 one way, and $5.76 with the Easy Pass.
Now you don't drive, do you?
No.
You can drive though.
Yeah, well, I had a license, and then it was like pointless to have one in New York City. I already had gotten my license in Pennsylvania before
Now
my mother
you
dragged
have
me out.
moved. I remember you were basically so close to everything that you could just kind of walk there and do everything in the old place.
Well, it's New York, yeah. I mean,
Well, yeah, but I
basically,
mean,
if
like,
you live
okay,
in the city, you're close to everything, pretty much.
in the city.
Just to answer your question.
Yeah.
Washington is only slightly bigger than New York. New York State, Washington, as you know, is more of a square with a little rooftop, kind of like Pennsylvania, but it's
Well, there's
it's
really
bigger than
only
New York.
about, if you really think about it, Washington State is really only about half because you have these mountains in the middle, and then you have Eastern Washington, which is basically sort of West Idaho, and it's just like scablands
East
and
buttfuck Texas.
It's East buttfuck Washington. Yes, it's just like all like
I feel
Trump
like something
voters
weird happened here, though, because if you look at the states and their shape, I feel like Washington and Oregon were the same state once, and then somebody
Well, yeah, there was the Oregon Territory, I think.
drew a borderline, and like
They drew a border.
like Idaho, Montana, and Wyoming look like they were all one state at one
Well,
point.
I just recently figured it out. I'm an old ass man, and I just figured this out. So you got Portland, and I always thought Portland was more sort of the middle of Oregon for some reason, or kind of like on the coast of middle. It's literally right on the border. Like there's Portland, there's I think Columbia River or something, and then there's Vancouver, Washington, which always confuses people because there's a Vancouver, Canada, there's a Vancouver, Washington. That's very south.
Oh yeah, well there's a Niagara, New York, there's a Niagara, Canada, there's a Buffalo, New York, and a Buffalo, Canada. It's weird over there. I'd love to live in one of those houses that's right on the border. Like I'm in the living room in New York, and then I'm in the kitchen in Canada. That would be awesome.
And then you can
Never
escape.
got to see anything like
well,
that.
you could be close to escape, if the country goes to shit. But
Get out of there.
Yeah.
Be like Barbara Streisand. She has a house in Vancouver, Washington, if I remember correctly.
Vancouver, Washington.
Yes, and she always talks about going over to Canada.
Well, Vancouver, Washington is on the very border of Oregon.
Right.
We have Vancouver Island. We have Vancouver Island, but that's Canada.
But she does have a house. She has a house over there, and she's always talking about going.
Well,
aren't you guys like in a weird time zone area too? Like if you go,
no, special just West Coast.
It's all West Coast over there.
All PSD. Yeah.
All right. So just to wrap up the story, I'm going to my my father-in-law is he's a very sweet man. He's a very gentle man, and he's also kind of dealing with the ravages of old age and dementia and all that stuff. And he
and then you
freaks
send him
out
a
when
gun.
he sees these guns. I sent him a gun. That's the great thing about it. I mean, like I love when things are funny, like legitimately funny. And the thing is, he accidentally got it early because he was not supposed to get it today. So I had to explain it to him. Remember, Bill, I told you about I was going to make a movie. I'm making a movie, right? And he says, "Oh yeah." He says, "What are you going to do with the gun?" Well, I was thinking if another actor bails out on me, I'll just blow my brains out with a BB gun. But otherwise,
I don't know. It's
going to be a lot of fun, though. I'll tell you.
I don't know how much damage. I mean, you go kind of John Eric Hexam on yourself, I guess, and just put it up to your head, I guess.
Yeah, the thing about guns. Accidentally. Now, do you have any thoughts about Alec Baldwin and all that? Because I have dealt with when I worked on movies. I made a movie upstate, and I worked with a weapons master, a guy who is an actual arms expert, and he actually went and made blanks. And blanks are very much like real bullets. They just don't have powder in them. So they give you a nice percussive sound. If there's even the tiniest bit, as Brandon Lee will attest, the tiniest bit of fragment in there, it will kill you.
Yeah, but
he was very careful.
Alec Baldwin, it was an actual bullet.
He said there was no bullet in the gun. The gun was not in his hand. He did not fire the gun.
No, just...
Yeah? When you drop your arm, that means he's 10 feet away. I can't see how close he is. Then I want to be almost up by the time he gets here.
No, I'm going to go into this.
Yeah.
Well, let me show you something. Hold on. Step back to your original mark. So 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, I'm getting up.
Right.
Then when he drops his arm, Helena get out. He drops his arm. That means Brady's close. I'm going to start to really get up.
Okay.
But he did.
Of course he did. We saw the footage. I mean, he
did.
He was screwing around.
I'm sure he did not do it intentionally. He thought it was a blank.
I don't
He thought it was.
Did you hear all the conspiracy theories?
What?
One was that he was screwing around with the director of photography on the set or something, and tried to blow her brains out. And then another one was that he didn't that somebody deliberately. It's like an episode of Monk. I've been watching
Look,
Monk.
I don't care how annoying someone is. You do that. I mean, you know that's going to create a problem. You quietly slip something in their drink or something. You don't shoot them with a gun in front of everybody.
That's true. But do you think that he do you think he's at fault in any way for this?
Well, it depends.
Or do you think that they made the right call and charged the weapons master with it?
Yes, but the problem is who hires the weapon person? Like who's the producer? Isn't he the producer? So it's like, isn't he?
He's also the producer.
So he's partially, even though he's like producer by name, he's technically the producer, and the production pays for the. Now I'd like to know who found this Yahoo that didn't know what they were doing. Although I will say this, like.
Well, she has experience. She's worked on movies before. And the bigger problem is that it's been shown over and over again. When you're dealing with in movie productions with guns, you always check the gun first. And it didn't seem like he checked the gun. That's the one thing I really don't like.
Maybe it was a long day.
Even Will Smith made a video about that. He said, always check the gun. Do not hand a gun to anybody. Check it first,
Well, maybe it was a long day. He's old. He's tired.
It's or something like that.
We all make mistakes. It's like
my weapons guy, the guy I knew, and I know a couple other guys, they always say the same thing. Never aim a gun. Always keep it down on the ground, no matter what, in case it accidentally goes off, because apparently they can accidentally go off.
Well, I think for the sort of now he was aiming at somebody else, and so he wasn't necessarily aiming at the person he was supposed to be shooting at. He was kind of aiming off, but when he was aiming, he was just sort of aiming in a direction that was, the camera could see it, because it looked like he was pointing, but he ended up shooting the camera person.
Yeah, the shot was supposed to be a little bit, it was supposed to be a low angle shot, aiming up at him. He pulls his gun very quickly, very cool move. It was supposed to be just like a cool move where he pulls the gun really fast. Yeah. And I guess his finger slipped, hit the trigger, fires though, but what the hell do we have? Why do we have live ammunition in this closed surrounding? That is a problem too. Live ammunition should not be in there. It should just be blanks, if anything, or nothing.
Yeah, this wasn't even like a casing. This was an actual bullet, I think, right?
It was an actual bullet. It was a straight up bullet. Goes through.
That's where it's like, I can't prove anything, but I'm not going to say it sounds suspicious, but I'm like, well, I'm pretty sure he didn't intentionally try to shoot anybody, but I'm thinking like, I just feel
like involuntary manslaughter or something like that?
I mean, first of all, why were any? I mean, look, you're making a movie. There should be no actual bullets in there. Like there should be like, how does a regular bullet get in there? That's what I'd like to know.
The only time you should ever have a real bullet is if you're firing, you're doing it in such a way that you don't really see the target. So you just have, and it's a Western. And so they got their guns and they're firing. But I wouldn't even do that.
You could have a ricochet. I wouldn't even do that. You could have a ricochet.
Yeah. But like if you're out in the open field and you're on top of a horse and you got a shotgun and you want a nice effect or something, then you can fire shotgun shells just out of nowhere. Like a lot of times, and then you add sound to sweeten it. You know what I mean? The thing about it is, everything about my movie is going to be completely manufactured. It's fake guns. When they click them, there's not even going to be. I'll add fake. I'll put in some smoke while I'm shooting it. Right. Just a little bit of. Are
you going to put in sort of digital
no.
Like thing on a thing,
Absolutely
so it
not.
looks like you? Okay.
No bullshit CGI. I'm doing everything in camera, so I'll just put a little puff of smoke there, maybe.
What about the sound? What about the sound? I'm assuming there'll be a sound that you'll add.
I'll probably just find something from a sound library and put I'll put a pistol shot in. That's all. Mm-hmm. And squib, maybe a little squib. Maybe I probably won't do squib. I'll probably do something like you take a big fat hypodermic syringe with a screw, put some tubing, and then run some fake blood through it. And that's probably.
I would ask, like, how many times is somebody going to get shot? I'm assuming, and is it like the end of the movie where the bad guy gets caught and gets shot, or is it something?
Basically, yeah. The bad guy gets shot. And I think he gets shot in the head, but we're not really going to see the head. We're not going to see the shot. We're going to just see the blood spray.
Okay. So they put a squib on the back.
Well, you know what one of my favorite effects is? It's so cheap, and you can see it watching a Blu-ray. Is Creepshow when Adrian Barbeau gets shot in Hal Holbrook's Little Fantasy. He shoots her with this big revolver. He shoots her in the head, and basically all they do is Adrienne Barbeau just basically freezes. They put a little blood spot on her, and then they put a backsplash against the tree. So, but it looks real, even though it's very low tech. It's a very low tech effect. There's not even a squib. There's just some blood splatter behind her on the tree, and a little red dot on her forehead. It's perfect. I'd love to do something like that if I have the time.
You said you were making 2 movies?
Yeah, there's another one is just a kind of a sit-down interrogation piece about a woman who has multiple personalities who witnessed a murder, and this cop and psychiatrist have to figure out which personality saw the crime, what was the crime specifically, what happened, something like that. I don't want to. Now somebody's gonna. I already registered it with the WGA, so don't try to rip me off, anybody listening.
No. Will this be submitted to like film festivals? Or?
Yeah, I'll probably run it through some film festivals, and I'll get some. If I can get, the thing about it is I have to work quickly, so I can only shoot it for.
Well, all I can say is, like, as someone who like has a car, I can say like having a car might help you because you can travel, you can go places, you're not kind of trapped. You probably have to take a bus to go places or have.
No, I'm in New York. I'm in Astoria, David. Astoria is the capital of movie making on the East Coast. I have studio space that I'm going to use. I shoot at a studio over here.
They put the Astoria in Kaufman Astoria.
Well, I won't be going to Kaufman Astoria. I'll be going to a smaller place, kind of like Ed Wood or something like that. One weird little place. Actually, no, it's some very nice people run some very great studio spaces over here. So I'm going to go there, and they're very reasonable. Okay, so what else? What else is on the docket there? Any new TV you've been watching?
Oh man, you know what? They brought back Dexter again. They got Original Sin.
This another?
It's young. Okay, here's what it is. Okay, so did you see the Dexter when they brought him back? The New Blood. Did you see that?
No, I've only watched the first show, the original show.
Okay, all I will say is about that because they brought him back because it ended so stupid. So they're like, we're gonna bring him back and we're gonna end it good, and they ended it better. And they made it seem as if he was not going to come back. I'll say that.
Wait, what about his crazy girlfriend and his kid? That is how the original show ended, with them going off and him becoming a logger or something.
Yeah, God, I'm foggy. I know that at the very end.
Did they acknowledge any of that? I mean, like what happened was the final episode of Dexter. There was a hurricane or something in Florida.
Yeah.
His sister gets shot and dies.
Yeah.
He is supposed to meet up with his crazy girlfriend who's a killer and his son, his baby that he has. And he just disappears. He goes up, I guess he goes to Alaska or something and becomes a logger, and she just goes off with the kid. And that's how it ends.
Okay, here's what happens. For some reason they have him in New York.
Okay, I guess he decided logging wasn't the way.
I guess you could have a whole time in between. He basically did like an Incredible Hulk thing, and he walked the earth and helped people out and had adventures and probably killed people, something like that. So he ends up in New York. He's like upstate New York.
There's a show. See, that should have been a show. Right?
I know.
There.
It's okay. So
it's like Highway to Heaven or Knight Rider, except he's a serial killer.
He's in upstate.
He helps people by killing people.
He's either upstate New York or Maine or something. He's East Coast something. And he's kind of living. He's kind of like a logger, but not really. He's just kind of living like a really quiet life. And he's got, okay. So he's changed his identity, and then his son finds him.
Wait, is this still Michael C. Hall?
Michael C. Hall, of course.
Okay,
you can't do it without.
So they didn't change the actor. Okay, good.
No, his son.
He was the best thing. He was the best thing about the show.
His son finds him.
Really good.
And then slowly, Dexter has to kill again. And then his son, I think, kills somebody. I can't exactly remember. And then
his son is a killer now.
At the very end, well, you know what? Since they're going to
is Dexter doing his usual thing, which is killing people who deserve it?
Yeah, actually, the serial killer in this one is the Kurgan.
The who?
The Kurgan from Highlander. That guy and does SpongeBob voice. Oh God, what's his name?
Wait, Clancy Brown or
Clancy Brown? Clancy Brown. Yes, of course. He's playing kind of to type, but okay. Yeah,
it's a little on the nose.
Little on the nose, yeah. And so at the end, his son Okay, I'll put it this way. So they're doing Dexter New Blood, they're doing Dexter Original Sin, which is a flashback to young Dexter, but he narrates it. Okay.
All right.
But
like young Sheldon.
Young Sheldon, yeah, young Sheldon with killing, yes.
The Young Dexter Chronicles.
Instead of James Remar playing the father, it's Christian Slater, which I don't know if that's a good match.
I heard that Christian Slater was somehow involved in something.
And then they have there's going to be a new series called Dexter Resurrection, and Michael C. Hall is coming back. So
what are they doing here? I mean, it seems like they're just sort of like
it's never going to end. It's never going to end.
New chapters and
and it's like they kind of make
they're not rebooting it at least, right?
New Blood, they make it look like okay, it's over. I'll say it. He's supposed to be dead. Well, at the beginning of this prequel series, they show him he's in the woods and he's supposed to be dead and it's in the snow and he's shot, but I guess it was cold enough that like they picked him up and they took him. This is getting very Halloween 4, you know, kind of like, oh, he's got like Loomis has a little scar on his face from Vern, even though he blew up.
Even though he's aged about 10 years. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's like, yeah. So, but it's like he's in the hospital now. He's kind of narrating his like life is flashing. And that's how they're kind of like having him narrate the thing. The New Blood ends. He's supposed to be dead, but he's not dead. So, all I can say is, it was the highest rated thing on Showtime ever. So then like they cut him a deal, I guess, even though there is no more Showtime really. They just merged it into Paramount Plus.
I noticed that. Oh, I should probably say that, I got rid of all of my cable. The only thing I really have, I have the premium regular. I mean, I have the regular cable channels in the package of 5. I think is what I have. No, 15. Sorry, but I don't do HBO. I don't do the premiums anymore. The only thing I have now is Netflix. That's the only thing I use. They're showing Dexter on Netflix, but I made sure I watched every Showtime show I could before I got rid of the service because my cable bill was way too much. It was just way too much.
Oh yeah, and what you can do is, you can get this, and because I think you talked about this a little bit before of like, they're starting to do bundles with streaming services. They're starting to do you can get the Max Netflix Hulu or something together with Disney Plus or something like that.
They did do that with Showtime. When I had the Showtime, they did have Paramount Plus, but it wasn't full Paramount Plus. They only gave us like some things. They didn't give us the whole thing. So I thought it was kind of a ripoff. So I decided not to do that anyway.
I gotta have my story. So it's like here's what I do. But what you can do is like I know you seem to like to have your cable, your sort of your linear cable channels that you can just watch. What you can do instead of having cable, just have internet and then get something it's called a Sling, a basic cable channel package. It's most of the basic cable channel packages, and it's like
I know what you're talking about
to stream, and it's like it's actually cheaper than having a cable because you gotta have a box.
Well, if the bill gets insane again, I may just do that.
Internet bill, my total internet bill, the actual internet is $20 a month. And I have 100 gigabytes per second or something, and that's plenty for me. And I get that, and then I just stream everything else. And I have, because I realized the only thing I was using my cable for by that point, because I was using the streaming version of a cable channel by that point, and I realized, hey, well, the only thing I only use it for DVR, and the only thing I DVR is the news, and I can get that on the YouTube.
You can get the news anywhere, pretty much.
I get the news anywhere. So it's like, so basically, you have internet, and then if you tack on all my streaming services, my total bill it's maybe like $140 a month, but I have everything and internet.
Well, around the time when I decided to get rid of all that stuff, the bill was over $325 a month. Yeah. And then I cut it out, and now it's down to $200, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I was looking at my bill, and
it was like 100, like it was like 1,000 channels I wasn't even looking at. So they were okay, tell me the channels that you look at the most, and we'll put them on this package. And so that's what they did.
My cable DVR thing was going to be like and with the internet was going to be like $320 or something. That's when it started to go over $300. I'm like, okay, I gotta figure this out. And then I And then and that's not including all the streaming services that I already had, because that doesn't cover Netflix, that doesn't cover Hulu, that doesn't cover
the
Disney
weird
Plus.
thing is, when we came to New York, when we came back to New York City in 2014, because we were living upstate, we had a package and we had the whole thing, and it was like $100 a month, and that's all it was for a year. And then suddenly these prices started to
Well, they do hit you with an
dramatically.
introductory price. I mean, look, I love my internet company, because I wish you could get what I get, because I have what's called okay, when I moved in,
What's your service again?
Okay, when I moved in, I had the choice. I could either have Comcast, which is everywhere, or a local thing, which was which is Frontier. And there was Frontier, and then they bought up they bought up in chunks, because they were a smaller company. They bought up in chunks Verizon's fiber services that were kind of all over the country, and they bought up Verizon Fios, yes. And they bought up that. And then later, another company swooped in, and because Frontier was having issues, another company came in. So it's Ziply Fiber bought it. So I have Ziply Fiber now. Ziply Fiber. Again, everything ends with a Lee, you know.
That sounds like an old man in a truck.
Ziply Fiber. Ziply. I'm Mr. Ziply.
The kind of guy who like throws his hat down and dances around it or something.
Yeah, well, he does, because I got a good deal. And
yeah, we don't get Comcast here. We have two options for the building, which is Spectrum and Fios. And I think a couple of my neighbors use Apple TV too, and I'm like, really? You guys use Apple TV? And they're like, and every time I ask anybody, they always tell me it's way too expensive. Like Apple TV is too expensive, Fios is too expensive, so it seems like Spectrum is our only option as far as saving money.
Mm-hmm. But I was able to renegotiate when I knew my because I got the introductory offer at 20. So I called them up and I said I basically pulled the douchebag move, and I said, look, I could have Comcast, I could have.
I'm gonna quit. I'm gonna pull the plug.
Yeah, I was nice about it, but I was like, I don't want to.
They usually, start screaming expletives at you and then daring you to.
Well, luckily because everybody cheaps out, I got a dude in India, of course, and I said, can you look? I want to keep my service. I love the service; it's great. Is there any way that I can negotiate to the introductory offer for a little while longer? And he's like, yes, let me talk to my people. And then they did. And so it's like, I have the introductory offer again for another year.
Did he actually talk to people?
Yeah, I talked to.
Or did he do the just come in from out of town kind of thing from Glengarry Glen Ross or something?
No, I got somebody from India, and they were very nice, and I was able to negotiate the deal. So now I'm set for another year, almost a year.
Oh my God, they should totally rewrite Glengarry Glen Ross as a bunch of cable TV guys. Just tell him you're going to offer him showtime. Just come in from out of town, and you got a meeting with the guy from HBO. I got a meeting with the guy from HBO. He's got 3 beautiful kids. He's going to give me $15 million.
Well, Alec Baldwin needs the work now. He can probably do it. Just give him a gun and
always be cabling.
Yeah,
always be
cabling.
Yeah. Anyway, I had a note about Dexter. I was thinking about this because I was going through the list of Dexter, and I realized, the show kind of went to hell after the 4th season. The best season was probably the one with John Lithgow. God, and it was the most depressing one too.
Oh, you know what? He has a cameo in.
Oh my God, does he show up again as that character?
He shows. Yeah, well, he's more like he kind of like has a vision of him kind of talking to him. This is in New Blood. And yeah, he does talk to him. He has kind of like a conversation with him about, he's kind of internally conflicted as he is always. And he does have a conversation with him. He comes back and he's just like, he came in today. But yeah, this is, I would say this is the new show. Oh, this is something I noticed. And this goes into Star Trek, if you can believe it. So in the pilot episode of Dexter Original Sin, Dexter Origins Wolverine,
Origins Wolverine.
It's actually like a recreation of a flashback episode that they did on the show where they have it's Michael C. Hall, and they're trying to make him look young, and he gave him a shitty wig, and he's trying to be young, but he's like in his almost 40, and he looks weird. Right. That was on the show. Well, in that flashback, there's this nurse that's killing people, and it's Denise Crosby.
Oh, Tasha Yar.
But that's in the flashback, but then in this episode they have somebody different playing every. And some of the people that they have playing, like they have somebody playing Dexter's mom, and they got an actress that looked very similar to the point where I thought, did they just get the same actress? They did not. The only one that I gotta say, Christian Slater is great, but he's no James Remar. He's Christian Slater, and I was watching it. I'm like, he's Christian Slater in everything that he does, because there's no huge amount of range.
That's an interesting topic too. I was just thinking about that because I had put up a review of something, an old review that I'd written. What was it? Kenny Rogers. Okay, this makes no sense. But I put up a review of Six Pack, the movie that he did back in '83, and I was like, Kenny Rogers is not an actor. So the director of the movie does the correct thing by not trying to force Kenny Rogers to act. Because when you think about it, a lot of these people that are actors are really just kind of playing themselves. You know, maybe they're doing it to entertaining effect, but they're not exactly like doing Hamlet. They're not, standing on a mountaintop with a skull.
Yeah, it's like if you're going to a movie to see Kenny Rogers, you're going to see a movie to Kenny Rogers. You're not going to see him like
he's Kenny Rogers. He's not
Kenny Rogers.
He's not Othello. He's not Macbeth. He's not doing that. He's a race car driver that can sing a song.
He's an affable guy. It's with a beard.
That's what they do. I mean, and I have to say, Six Pack is a very entertaining movie. It's a very sweet, wonderful movie. Everybody should watch it.
That's
I mean, it's harmless. It's harmless family fun, and it's got a very young Anthony Michael Hall and a very freaking inappropriately hot Diane Lane.
Okay, now is she 18 when she does this?
Aaron Gray is in it too. Wilma from Buck Rogers plays.
Now was she? I'm trying to do the math. Was at least she 18 when she did that? Because she was not.
Oh yeah, she was definitely a lot older.
Well, wait a minute now. Let me do this math. Okay, so she was in again in an inappropriate age. Outsiders was around the same time.
Yeah, same time.
And I think she was maybe like 16. They just packed her full of makeup.
Rumblefish that made her into a sex object, I might add. Well,
luckily she was over 18 when she did Lady Beware, and you got to see her boobs.
She was in this movie with Viggo Mortensen, I remember, called A Walk on the Moon. Yeah, she was 18. She was 18 or 19. Okay. She was born in 1965, which would have made her 18 or 19 around the time of Six Pack.
All right. Then I'm okay.
Yeah, you're fine.
Well, the reason she's hot, her mom was a Playboy model.
Mother, Colleen Farrington. Ooh, she's a dish. She's very cute. I wonder what the
good genes there.
When she married an acting coach, blah, 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 blah. Well, fashion. Yeah, she was Playmate of the Month for October 57, which was probably not all that, That
was before they could really show much, yeah.
Yeah, it was like a little bit of skin, but really just only a little bit more than what
I think we had this conversation about, like, when they started, there was a lot more boobage, and then they started getting blowback, so they toned it down for a few years until Hef could get his groove on, and then it became everything.
Now there is no more Playboy. It's weird.
No. Oh, wait a minute. There isn't? There isn't?
Not really. No, they're out of business.
I know that they stopped doing nudity for a while. Everybody complains, so they started putting nudity back in. But by then, I think it was too late.
It doesn't even matter anymore. My God, it's just like everything is so freely available now.
Believe me, I mean, and you don't have a smartphone. You don't have a cell phone. You don't have a smartphone.
Yeah, the final issue was March 17th, 2020.
Now you don't have a smartphone or a cell phone, correct?
Not on me, no. My wife has hers, and my daughter has.
My goodness, if you wanna see boobs, you're gonna see boobs like you've never seen boobs before. Because my goodness, this Google is your friend, and if you know where to look, copyright be damned.
Yeah, that's a subject for another time, but it is interesting to me because I feel like the internet and computers and everything have killed content, and I'm trying to figure out how they're making money.
For men. They've killed motivation for men because the whole point of us doing stuff was we got to work hard, we got to do things so we can get a woman, so we can see boobs. Well, now you can see boobs. I remember one time
in my sophomore year at high school, there was a corner store. It was around the corner from the high school where I went to. And I had $10 in my pocket, and I tried to go in there and get a nudie magazine. And the man actually refused me. He said no.
At the time, you could probably get
out
magazines for $10.
He was like, get out of here. And I was like, huh? You don't want my money? Huh? What money is it? And, I was.
How old were you when you did this?
I was 15.
Yeah. Oh, I thought. You know what? The thing is, I was at a weird time.
It was a young.
I got into here. Let me tell you something. I got into R-rated movies. And I was 50. I went and saw Hellraiser by myself at I would think I was still 15.
And they let you in?
And they let me in. And then you've seen me. I am quite youthful. I probably look like I was about 12.
Yeah.
or 10. And I'm like, well, they just did not give a shit then.
I've never gone to a movie by myself, so I've never been to an R-rated movie by
Oh man,
myself.
I go to movies all by myself.
Wait,
I love going to
no.
movies
That's
by myself.
not true. That's actually not true. 1989. How old was I? How old was I in 1989?
What year were you? Okay, you're born October
72. So I was
October
72.
72.
16, 17.
17. Okay.
I did go to a R-rated movie by myself, but it was really not much of an R rating. It was a very soft R. It was War of the Roses, the movie with Michael Douglas, Kathleen.
That's more for tone and see through Kathleen Turner's boobage.
It was just and also, if I may,
language. It was
the
wall to wall F words. I think
the movie began with a short Simpsons cartoon.
So 89, 89.
Yeah, because it was a Gracie Films. It was a Gracie Films production, and it came with a Simpsons cartoon.
Now, Tracy Ullman show started, I think, 80s, early.
Yeah, this was a very early one. This is one where they go to a. They went to a. Do you remember the marriage counselor? They went to a marriage counselor. No, it wasn't a. No, it was a family counselor.
I remember the family, and they
his
put
name
the
was
buzzers
Marvin,
on them, and
Dr. Marvin something.
We're zapping them, and then.
Yes, they were zapping them, and they ran this cartoon before the movie because I guess the producers were involved with The Simpsons. James L. Brooks, Gracie Films, so they ran that, and it was weird. Maybe I was the youngest person there.
Do you think that was perhaps inspired by the whole Roger Rabbit thing? Because they were putting Roger Rabbit. You know what? They probably were, because they put a Roger Rabbit cartoon in front of Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
Yeah,
that sounds about right. That sounds about, because the Roger.
It's weird though. I mean, because it was a little more. Maybe back then it was a little more of an open field for adult and children that were viewers, because adults like The Simpsons and kids like The Simpsons too. So they ran them both together. So
I haven't watched The Simpsons since like the first maybe a couple of years, and then I'm like,
I don't think I've watched The Simpsons since, what was the last really good episode they did? I think it was the Behind the Music parody thing that they did of The Simpsons a long time ago.
It's still on, isn't it?
Yeah, The Simpsons is still on, and it's incredible.
Now, I would maybe watch King of the Hill. I would maybe watch Family Guy.
I watched King of the Hill the whole time. I watched it from beginning to end, and I love that show. I thought it was great.